So when you're in the middle of a family law case, you have to remember not to sweat the petty things and not to pet the sweaty things. Actually, and I didn't say that, Steven Tyler said it. And I have a sign that I've had in my office for years reminding me of that daily. If you don't know who Steven Tyler is, check out Aerosmith, one of my favorite bands from the 80s. Lots of words of wisdom from Aerosmith and Steven Tyler, especially about not sweating the petty things. However, what if one of the things that you're sweating is your judge in your family law case? We've talked a lot about judges who maybe hate you in past videos. Today, we're going to talk about what you can actually do about it if you think that your judge is not a petty thing and is instead a major thing. So stay tuned, watch this video. My name is Wendy Hernandez. I'm a Phoenix family law attorney, and I'm also the creator of Command the Courtroom. There are hundreds of videos on the Command the Courtroom YouTube channel. Also check out commandthecourtroom.com for programs that might help you as you go through your family law case. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Command the Courtroom channel. This helps me know that the videos are helping you, and it motivates me to keep making more. Also, if you find this video helpful, be sure and give it a thumbs up after, as well as any other videos that have helped you along your family court journey. Leave comments because I love reading your comments. They give me ideas. They are what feed me to make new videos on different types of things. So let's talk about your judge and whether or not your judge is a petty thing that you should not sweat or not. So we've talked a lot about in recent videos about judges who hate you and the way judges are acting in your family law case. And you may be in a situation where it's actually time for you to think about whether you should consider changing your judge. And fortunately, in most jurisdictions, there is a rule of procedure that will allow you the opportunity to change your judge under certain circumstances. So there's a couple of steps, a couple of things that you need to look at. Number one is you have to find the rules of procedure that apply to your family law case. As an example, in Arizona, for family court cases, we follow the Arizona rules of family law procedure. Up until several years ago, for family law cases, we had to follow the Arizona rules of civil procedure, but at some point, a committee got together and created special rules for the family court system. That may or may not be the case in your jurisdiction, so you have to check it out. If you need to, go down to the law library, get in touch with the law student, have a consultation with the lawyer to figure out what rules apply to your situation. Rules of procedure are very important in your case. They're kind of like the rules of engagement that the judge is going to use to guide him or her. And if you don't follow the rules, then you could miss deadlines, you could not know that you're supposed to serve somebody within a certain time limit, you might not respond to discovery requests in a timely fashion. There's all kinds of bad things that can happen if you don't know what the rules of procedure are and if you don't follow them. One of the things you're going to find in your rules of procedure is how to change a judge. So in Arizona, we call this noticing a judge, a notice of change of judge. That's what I need to file when I want to change a judge in my family law case. There's a couple of different ways or provisions under which you can change a judge. And you may be able to change a judge in your jurisdiction as a matter of right. That's an option that's actually available to me and my clients and people here in Arizona who have a family court case. And what that means is that you can change a judge for pretty much any reason. In fact, you may not even have to state the reason that you're changing the judge in your case. As an example, when I get a case and I find out that there's a judge involved that maybe I haven't had great rulings from, or that I hear is biased against mothers or fathers, or doesn't like maybe cases involving drugs or alcohol, I talk about it with my client, I think about it, and we evaluate whether or not it would be in my client's best interest to change the judge. I never do this without my client's approval and buy-in, but if we decide that we want to change the judge, then we move forward with filing the paperwork. The catch in Arizona to filing a judge, though, is that if you change the judge, you don't know who you're going to get next. You're going to get assigned a new judge, and usually that person is assigned by the head of the family court judges, the presiding judge, and it's probably pretty random. So there are some situations when my client and I have decided we want a new judge and we end up with a worse judge. That's a risk that you could take. And in other situations, we have ended up with a phenomenal judge, somebody who's a lot better than the judge that we had. So again, changing a judge could be a risk in your situation, depending on what jurisdiction you're in and depending on what the process is for your jurisdiction's administration for giving you a new judge once you changed a judge. Now, there's a couple of landmines that you need to watch out for when you're deciding whether to try and change a judge as a matter of right, and that is for no reason at all or for any reason. You have to look at the rules of procedure to figure out what the time limits are for changing the judge. There are usually time limits and there are rules that could prevent you from changing your judge. As an example, if a judge in my case has already made substantive rulings about the case, then I can't change that judge. And it's a bummer. And I've actually seen other attorneys and other parties file a notice of change of judge, which goes to the judge assigned to their case. And the judge says, hold on, no way, you can't change me. I already decided whatever issue and you're stuck with me. So imagine what that would be like, continuing to have a judge that knows you tried to get them kicked out. So read the rules. It's a possibility if the judge has made rulings in your case, you can't change them. Another thing is there are probably time limits by which you have to change your judge for a matter of right. And I can't recite the time limits to you for Arizona or any other state for that matter. I need to look at the rule. But if you fall outside those time limits, then do not try to change the judge. If you try to change the judge and you're outside the time limits that allow you to change the judge, you're going to have the same situation again where the judge is going to say, too bad, so sad, you're late, you're stuck with me. So check the rules, read the rules carefully, and make sure that you're actually allowed to change your judge. Another thing is, usually there's limits on the number of times that you can change a judge. In Arizona, I can only change a judge once. If a client comes to me and they've had a lawyer before me and that lawyer changed the judge already, and we have a crappy judge, and my client and I are kind of out of luck. We have to make do with that judge. So just plan ahead and think ahead. Think that you could end up with somebody worse or better. Make sure that you're within the time limit, and also know that there's a possibility if you change judges now, you may not be able to do so in the future. Another thing that you should kind of have on your radar if you're deciding whether or not to change a judge is if there's a possibility that your judge could rotate off your case or rotate off your calendar without you having to change that judge. So in Arizona, every June, judges rotate, and after they've been on a certain assignment for a few years, they might rotate to a different assignment. So if a judge has been on the family law bench, handling family law cases for a few years, then it may be their time to rotate to the civil bench or the criminal bench or the juvenile bench or the probate bench, some other bench, which means if you know that's coming and you can get a hold of a list or get a hold of information saying where your judge is going and when, then you may not need to use that change of judge. I've seen people waste their very precious notices of change of judge on a judge that was going to rotate off the bench anyway, which doesn't make sense. So sometimes if you know a judge is going to go away, it's a matter of just kind of biding your time and riding the wave until the judge rotates to another assignment in the system. Okay, so there is another way that you can change judges if you can't just change a judge as a matter of right and not list a reason. And that is changing a judge for cause. I will tell you that I personally have never been successful changing a judge for cause. It's not something that I have done that often or tried that often. And the reason I haven't is because it worries me. What worries me about trying to change a judge for cause is that you have to file a motion and put all the reasons you're unhappy with your judge and why you want to change the judge in that motion. So those reasons are on the record. And at least in my jurisdiction, guess who decides whether or not you get to change judge? Well, it's the judge that you're complaining about. So that's a risky proposition. And when I have tried it, the judges have denied my request to change a judge for cause. And my client and I had to go through the entire rest of the case with the judge knowing that we wanted them kicked to the curb. So that's something that I would consider very carefully before I do it. And there may be reasons that you decide decide to go ahead and do it, there may be reasons that you do it so you can protect your right to appeal. I can't tell you whether it's a right thing or a wrong thing to do. If you're in a situation where you feel like you need to change your judge and the only option is doing it for cause, then consult with an attorney in your jurisdiction so the attorney can, help you reason through it and make a decision about whether it is in your best interest, the likelihood that you might actually win on that change of judge for cause, but it's something that you should think about. And also, just like with changing a judge as a matter of right, there is a rule, it's probably the same rule, that tells you what the requirements are for you to change a judge for cause or for good reason. So before you dive in and start writing motions, like read the rule and follow the rule. Make sure that you are, that's an option for you, and just follow the rule to the T, because if you don't, again, you could get thrown out on a technicality alone, and then your judge knows you were trying to get rid of him. And to me, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want my judge to throw me out on a technicality and know that I didn't like him or her for whatever reason. Now, if you decide to change a judge for cause, like, you have to do a really well-written motion, a well-reasoned motion. I would recommend doing a motion that's supported by case law. If you haven't already seen the video on good writing methods, then you need to check out the video that is called something about your legal writing stinks. It's on the Command the Courtroom. And in that video, I talk about how to put together an organized and well-written motion using methods that are used throughout, or that are taught throughout the nation. In that video, I show you how to put together a very well-organized motion using methods that are taught by law schools across the United States. It's called the IRAC formula. So if you haven't already checked out the video on legal writing on the Command the Courtroom YouTube channel, do that now. But in your motion, you have to provide law, you have to provide evidence, you have to provide compelling arguments, persuasive arguments about why your judge should be kicked off the case. Put it together well, because if you're going to do it, you might as well go for it, right? Don't half step it, do it right, and make it convincing. Protect your record on appeal. So if you have a judge who is treating you unfairly, then maybe you have options. Before you jump into changing your judge, you also have to think about whether your judge is just somebody who has a loud bark, and that may be the case. Like, I don't like it when judges have a loud bark and bark at me, but really, when I think about it, these judges who sometimes bark at me, they really be good judges and may not take any crap from people, may uphold the law. So to me, I am okay with maybe getting scolded once in a while or even yelled at once in a while, because I know this judge is going to do what's right and fair. So just don't base a change of judge on the fact that you don't like a judge's disposition. Look at whether the judge is doing the right thing, whether the judge is following the law, whether you think the judge is going to make a ruling based on the evidence that you present on your case. Also, when it comes to judges, do your research about the judge. Do your research about what kind of rulings a judge might make in a case similar to yours. Ask around. There are groups out there in almost every jurisdiction where you can research judges. I've mentioned before, go to the website for your superior court, whatever jurisdiction you're in. Look at the guidelines that judges have for their courtroom. You're going to get a lot of information and intelligence about your judge by doing that. The key is being well informed, not only about your judge, about the judge's rulings, about the judge's history, about where the judge is maybe going to be rotating to in the next month or two or year, but also being informed about the rules of procedure when it comes to changing judges in your case. So leave me a comment below and tell me whether you like your judge, whether you hate your judge, whether you wish that you could get rid of your judge, whether you might consider changing your judge according to the rules of procedure. Ask any questions you have. I may make a video related to that question in the future. And if you haven't already downloaded that best interest checklist, go ahead and do that now. It's available at the Command the Courtroom website. If you have a child custody case, the checklist is going to help you prepare the best case you can to present to your judge or to your jury. And that's going to do it for this week's video. Until next time, remember to get out there and command the courtroom, and I'll see you soon.